developers of ChatGPT, OpenAI, are introducing new technology that will allow you to essentially build your own version of ChatGPT using their technology and using plain language. This is a huge development for tech, for business, for many, many industries. So joining me now is Kevon Brown. He's co-founder of Voto Virtual Solutions here in Kingston, Jamaica. He's very excited about it. So Kevon, hi, good evening.
Good evening, Kalilah. What's up?
I am good, but I don't think I'm as good as you because you're beaming right now.
Yeah.
Since this news broke, you were like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is up your alley.
Well, to give you some context, the first time the iPhone was unveiled, I think, in my second year at university, and I wouldn't have known then, but that was like one of the pinnacle of or the change in how we interact with mobile devices, and that has revolutionized the way we do it today, up to today. You know, if you don't have an iPhone, you don't have an Android phone, technically you don't have a phone, because those are the only two major operating systems that you can get on. And I consider this kind of announcement to be on par, leading up to the next set of, or the next revolution in the tech space.
Wow, that big, that major. So explain what exactly is happening.
All right, so the creators of ChatGPT, OpenAI, they had their first ever developer conference. They call it Dev Day. It happened yesterday, and they made quite a few announcements. And it's the first time they would have come to the public with anything. So nobody really, thought what they would come with more than just a new version of GPT. But the first thing they announced was that ChatGPT had a weekly user base of over 100 million people. And
Wow.
that is ridiculous. That is one of the fastest growing consumer products, digital products, in the world. So when they started to roll out, the different announcements, one was the price decrease for the new language model, which is called GPT-4 Turbo. So we have the latest one, which is GPT-4, or at least the outgoing one. And now we have the latest, newest and greatest GPT-4 Turbo. So what that does, essentially, it improves upon what was there before, but it now comes in at a lower cost to run for developers. So it can generate up to 96 million words in between what you give it and what it outputs in one single go. So that's the limit. That is
How long does it take to do that?
Well, I'm not sure anyone is actually giving it that many input tokens to do that, but I would figure it would take a while if it's gonna do a lot of that. But if you're doing simple, your everyday chat GPT typing, what is this, how do I do that, and the rate at which it responds within seconds, microseconds, I'm quite sure if you max it out, it would actually maybe buckle a little bit, but it will actually generate it in the same almost real time, because they're actually operating on Azure, which is Microsoft's data center and their entire hosting platform. So think of Amazon that runs a web, and they have all these servers all over the place, all over the world. And Microsoft is one of those competitors where they have servers. So OpenAI actually uses Azure, Microsoft Azure, and the speed at which it will compute all of the input that it gives, that it takes in and it gives out, is going to be ridiculous, because Microsoft owns about 49% of that company. So they're going to ensure that the user experience is top notch.
So the new ChatGPT-4 Turbo is more for developers, you said. It's not really geared towards the regular public who uses it, the 100 million users.
Well, it is geared towards both. The developers have it for their own custom applications, but you can get it in, it's going to be a default model for ChatGPT Plus subscribers specifically. So if you're not a Plus subscriber, you will have only up to 3.5 turbo, I believe. But if you're a plus subscriber, you will have access to GPT-4 Turbo. And GPT-4 Turbo comes with some added benefits. It has, well, let me just get to the ones that would be more interesting for persons would be it can actually serve the web. It has more updated information up to April of this year. And you can actually upload files. It can, see, it can describe whatever it is that you give to it. And it is much faster than before. It knows a lot more. It can actually make actions as well and connect to other applications. So for developers to use it, they can actually connect it to something else. So for example, Zapier and Canva, you can make a prompt and it will say you're using with Canva, you make a prompt in ChatGPT, create me this thing at this size, and it will say, okay, this is what you want, connect your Canva account, and boom, just like that.
Really? So that's what the ChatGPT 4 Turbo is, or that's the new thing that they announced?
That's some of its capabilities. Yes. So that is one of the things that they announced. They announced quite a few other things. The two other things that I think are major game changers that would be in light to the whole iPhone revolution that I mentioned before is that they are now allowing users to tap into their GPT technology to create essentially mini chat GPTs. So let's think about it. When the iPhone was created, it was a revolutionary product. It had music, could make phone calls, and it can connect it to the internet. Then you had the App Store, which set off a chain reaction where the slogan, there's an app for that. I don't know if you remember that
I
slogan. There's an app
remember
for
when
this, there's an
that
app for that.
slogan came out. Yeah.
Right. And you had a lot of, it opened the floodgates for small developers to now create applications for the Apple ecosystem, upload it to the App Store, and it sends out to millions of people. So the model is the same. Now, OpenAI is now giving regular users, well, specifically the plus subscribers, the ability to now create their own chat GPT with the parameters that, whatever they want. So if you want to create a GPT that is a travel agent, and or you want to create a GPT that is education focused, maybe teaching someone how to read or to spell or whatever it may be, you can just create it in no code needed, no coding abilities, no coding skills necessary. It's simple, drag and drop, click, and you go. And then they have the GPT store where all those GPTs will be hosted. And regular users can now go and either purchase them or they can download them for free, depending on whatever the creator wants. In addition to that, OpenAI said that they would have a revenue sharing model. So where the best or most popularly used GPTs would get a financial incentive from the company. So it has totally replicated the App Store model.
So I heard this news yesterday. I heard it through you because you posted it in our group chat. And I was like, but what's a GPT? I understand what chat GPT is,
Right.
but they're saying that, okay, you get the ability to make your own GPT. And I was a little bit confused as to what that actually was. What does GPT even stand for?
All right, so it stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So simply put, it is a language learning model, and I'm stripping it down very plainly, where you train this piece of software on a wide variety of data sets that you want it to, respond on. And what you use with it or what you do with it, it will determine the medium. So GPT is just the engine, while Chat GPT is just the frame of the vehicle, if you understand what I'm saying. So Chat GPT is just the chatbot form of GPT. But technically, GPT can be used in a lot of other mediums, but the most popular one now is through a chatbot. So with this feature, what they're going to be doing is allowing persons to basically rip off ChatGPT legally and let it do whatever it is that you want it to do. And it's in the same form that everybody knows a chatbot. So you can create your own chatbot. You can create a Kalilah chatbot, and you can train your Kalilah chatbot on everything financial, everything about Kalilah, everything about taking stock, everything about what we do. And when someone comes and asks the Kalilah bot for, you know, what's the best stock out there right now, and the Kalilah bot will respond based on what it is that you trained it on.
So you would have to upload the information, feed it the information that you want to feed it. It doesn't sound that different from bots that already exist, because you can train bots right now to respond to DMs, for example, automatic emails based on what somebody told them and what you tell it to do.
Right. And that is where I think I wouldn't say genius, but that is where the comparison with Apple comes in. The original iPhone, was not the first smartphone. It was definitely by not a long mile, but it was the only one that really encapsulated what the future would look like. It is a similar thing. ChatGPT is not the only chatbot that you can do and create that with, but with ChatGPT, you're leveraging an already established data set that is exceedingly large. You don't have to do anything. You just drag and drop. Most chatbots, you will have to get like a developer to create it, or it will be using maybe another piece of data set that you would have to fine tune. And all of that requires some technical knowledge. Now, what OpenAI has done is that they created that entire infrastructure for you. And all you need to do is click 2 buttons and allow persons to type what they want. And you can upload your files, you can do all that you want. So the difference is really the vision going forward and what they have created through it, more so than the actual thing itself. It's about what it represents going into the future, and less about what it is really now, because it's not that much different from what's out there, but it where we see it going into the future, it is opening a considerable amount of doors.
All right, so I know you geek out over this type of stuff. Have you tried it already? Like, is it available to try already?
All right, so it is, I'm not sure if it's available for Plus subscribers, but developers can actually use some of the APIs currently. Their version of the GPTs that I just described is actually called Assistant for Developers. So it's a simple tool that you can use in the playground. I actually started playing around with it, and it has a similar interface to what you would use your own, or how you would create your own GPT. So it's you give the assistant a name, you tell it the instructions that you want, and then you select the model that you want it to use. In this case, it would be GPT-4 Turbo. And now you have other options that you didn't have before, like running functions, meaning you can tell it to execute something, whether it to be a send an email, or like a post on Facebook or something like that. And you can actually upload your own data, which you couldn't do before with any of the ChatGPT versions before. So if you have, for example, let me give my example that I did. I created a chatbot, a financial chatbot, or financial journalist chatbot, and I nicknamed it Kalilah. And I uploaded the
Wait, you actually did this?
Yes, I did this. And
Okay.
I uploaded the 1GS prospectus to the platform, and then I simply asked it, hey, can you tell me about the 1GS IPO? How has the company performed? And it gave me exactly what was in the document. It read the document and gave me what I wanted. And it also added a little snippet at the end, not necessarily to tell me whether I should invest, but it told me, based on this, the overall performance of the company is X, Y, and Z, and you should probably look at it. So this was not available before, and because of how it has been released, meaning it's now given to the everyday man, so to speak, or at least those who can subscribe to ChatGPT Plus, you can create this yourself, and then you can submit it to OpenAI. You can add a price tag to it, and if somebody finds value in it, then they will pay for it, and that's how you
Wow.
just make passive income just like that. And
Wow.
then on top of that, if your app does well, OpenAI will pay you on top of that because it does well.
Wow. No, I love this idea. So I like that you said you can upload information. So you train it with your own stuff. So I could
Right,
upload all the previous episodes of Taking Stock, which we're at almost 200 now, all the
right.
previous episodes of Money Monday, or at least the transcripts, all the previous bottom line videos, all those prospectus reviews, IPO reviews that we've done. And somebody could ask Kalilah GPT
That's
about
right.
a particular question about something related to something that we did a while ago, and it would respond like me,
Yes.
using, and you can train it to use my voice,
Right.
not my audio voice, but to write like how I would sound, like how I would speak.
Right. Correct.
I'm
That's
starting to
exactly
get
how
it
it would
now.
work.
That's very, very interesting. I might
And
need to give it this assignment, Kevon, to build out Kalilah GPT.
sure,
uh,
already in the works.
well,
To top it off, just to add to it, one of the most important aspect of it, and it's been a very controversial topic since AI started to come up, is who owns the rights to all of these things. When
mm,
the chatbot gives you what it gives you, who owns this? Now, OpenAI has something called the copyright shield, which is essentially they have protected you against any form of litigation once you're using their product to generate anything. Everything that ChatGPT gives to you is owned by you. And if someone comes to you and say, "Hey, I don't know, I'm going to sue you for this," OpenAI is saying that they will step in and pay those bills for you. That's how confident they are in this platform.
Very, very interesting. So we have a few questions for you, Kevon, and some comments as well. Christopher says that it sounds like I'm planning my vacation. Just, in a couple years, maybe less, I can just have ChatGPT host the show for me, or some type of AI. Sean wants to know, how do you get access to it though? I think you said it. You use the developer version, right?
Right. So there are two ways to access it, and it's for different people. You have developers, and then you have the regular layman user. In order to access the newest versions of GPT or GPT-4 Turbo as a regular user, not a developer, you have to subscribe to ChatGPT Plus. I'm not recalling how much it is per month now, but you can use it and you have access to all of the models. Yeah, well, they're only going to give you GPT-4 Turbo, which is the latest and greatest, and you will have access to all the features that they would have talked about. You won't even know. You'll just start using it, and it will just do the things for you. Um, the the feature to create your own GPT has not yet been released, as far as I know. It has been announced, but it has not been released. I'm not sure. I haven't seen any timeline as to when it will happen, nor the App Store. But for developers, now actual developers who create their custom apps, they have access to a version of that called Assistance. So where it has the same setup, but you actually need to know how to code to deploy it in some sort of application. But you can actually test it. If you don't want to necessarily code, you can actually create an account on openai.com and you can sign up as a developer. I mean, they're not going to drill you and ask you questions that you don't know. You just need to attach a credit card and you will have access to it. So how it works is that it will bill you based on what you use. So it's not a subscription model where you pay monthly, you pay per what you use. So if you want to play around with it, you can do so by going there, attaching your credit card, and then you can go into the playground and you can go through some of the new features that are there. Just a little caveat for the regular person who want to go. A lot of it is developer focused, so you may not understand some things, but for the assistance, it's pretty basic. It's very similar to what they demoed, what the creating your own GPT would look like. So it's a little bit more visually based. So you can actually quicker know what to do. But if you're going to run it now in some sort of, let other people use it, then that's where the coding knowledge will come in.
So a question coming from Malcolm, who wants to know, what are the risks?
What are the risks? A little broad, but based on copyright shield, there are no risks for copyright. The overall risk, I would say, for using OpenAI's platform is what you call a vendor lock-in. So a vendor lock-in is simply when you use the producer of a product, if you use their product and only their product, when something changes, the whole thing shuts down. If you build your entire business on it, and then for some reason OpenAI goes under, your entire business model goes with it. And that is something that is, within the developer community, it's a pretty big thing to look at. So not a lot of developers will take on new things when they see it, because the risk of losing things are high. But when you are using tools from companies that are super established, like Google, Apple, Samsung, whatever, OpenAI, who is now backed by Microsoft, the chances of them are failing pretty low, especially considering that AI is on the rise, popularity-wise, and there's a ton of investments going into OpenAI. So the risk of OpenAI shutting down is not really something that, it's not something that probably happen anytime soon, if at all. So yeah, I hope that answered that question.
Marty says, I'd rather they make it open source. Would that solve that problem?
Yes, in a way it would actually. Open source is what a lot of developers like. But open source also means the what you call it, the learning curve is very steep. So if it was open source, a lot of what they have now created, people wouldn't have access to it. So if you're going to have an open source platform where somebody can build their own GPT, then the layman couldn't use it, because you definitely need coding knowledge to use it. Open source simply means I have an engine and the engine is perfectly good. It can build anything on top of it. But if you don't know how to build an actual frame for the car, then it doesn't mean anything to you. That's what open source really is.
Understood. Craig wanted to know if you can do a live test, or at the very least show us what you did.
Sure. Let me see. How do I share?
I want to see what it looks like. So hit the present button. Okay.
Can you see?
Yeah.
All right. So
Probably have to zoom in though.
All right, let's see. Is this a little better?
Okay. Put him back on. We need a different format, Kristen. Okay.
All right. So to the left here, this is what let me zoom out quickly to show you what the user interface for assistance would look like. So when you're in the developer backend, you have your bar to the left, and then you have playground. Assistance is what is the feature that we're going to be using, but assistance only work inside the playground. So now we're in the playground, and here you create your bot. I've already went through and called it Kalilah. And in the instructions, just like how you prompt a ChatGPT chatbot, these are the instructions that you will give it as well. So you're telling the chatbot what it is you want it to do. So one of the most popular way is to give it a persona. And that persona now will replicate who the person is. So a little backdrop on who you are and what you do. And then we go down to choose the model. So this is what it would look like. So GPT-4 1106 preview, this is the latest one, which is GPT-4 Turbo. Now, these are the things I was talking about, the extra tools. And this is where it starts to get a little developer-y. You have code interpreter and you have retrieval. Retrieval simply means your ChatGPT will be able to search the internet. So if somebody asks it a question that requires it to surf the web, then you can enable it and it will do so and give back the information. So Now we have files where I uploaded documents. So I uploaded 2 documents, best credit cards and 1GS IPO prospectus. So now, armed with that piece of information, I already asked it about the 1GS IPO, and this is how it responded. So I'm going to ask it something about credit cards. So let's see, what is the best credit card to use in Jamaica? It may take a little while when you click add and run. So what it's doing now is running that function in the back end, making the queries, reading the documents, and then now, boop, it pops up.
So what did it say? I can't read it. It's too small.
Oh,
as an AI, I don't have real-time
All right.
access to current market rates offer
Right.
service, so I can't provide contemporary recommendations.
Right. So
That sounds like something I would say.
right.
In different
So
words.
right. So all we'd have to do is to train it to say, all right, instead of saying I am an AI, I am Kalilah, or to speak more in the first person, then it starts to give you a lot of the information that was requested. The best credit card for you will depend on a variety of factors, including your individual financial institutions, spending habits, etc. So it actually read the document, and then it gave this information based on what is in the document. So if we ask it, what are the rates for, let's say, what's a better question to ask? Something more about what are the fees for these cards, maybe?
It could be like, which bank has the lowest credit card fees?
All right.
Which credit card in Jamaica has the lowest fees? I think that should be in that document.
And then we add and run. There we go. So determining which bank in Jamaica has the lowest credit card fees would require up-to-date data, etc. I think these are some of the things that are some of the ways in which it responds are based on autocorrection that is already built in. So it tries to be safe, but it does actually read the document. I tested this out earlier, but this is a beta software, and beta just simply means that it's still being tested, and it may give results that are not so incomplete, so complete, and it may have a little bit of bugs, but yeah, overall it works.
Very nice. Very nice. So a lot of people are asking about you now, Kevon. Somebody said, Sean said, oh, he's smart. And then I had people asking, like, how can they get in contact with you if you're on LinkedIn and so on?
Yes, I am on LinkedIn. You can just search for Kevon Brown on LinkedIn.
Okay. Voto Studios, VOTO.
Voto Virtual Solutions. We actually created an app or a web application called Storybook AI. It was featured on Smile Jamaica earlier this year, maybe I think it was in March, and it is built off of OpenAI's platform. And what it is essentially a web application that creates storybooks for children. At least that's what it started off as. And we're now up to over 2,000 users worldwide, and a lot of them are actually generating stories for adults, which I found to be very interesting. So even with these what you call it now, with these announcements from OpenAI, there's so much that we can do with that platform to make it even better. So for example, GPT-4 Turbo being more smart and being able to generate more words. And one of the requested things on Storybook AI for persons that have been using it is to be able to write an entire novel using the platform. And now with this extension, we can actually do that. So that is something we're actually working on. So if you want to check it out, you can go to storybookai.app.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Kevon. This is very, very interesting. And you guys can find him on LinkedIn if you're interested in utilizing his services. Kevon, one of the bright sparks of Jamaica at the forefront of technology.